Welcome to The Rundown. I'm Sunny Galt. I'm a messenger with United Network News, and UNN is the official news channel for CARE, the Center for Amity and Restoration of Earth. We have a newscast that comes out 3 times a week on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and that's where we discuss the real news, what is really happening in our world, in our communities, in our states, in our provinces, on our planet, and even throughout the multiverse. If you want more information about us and what we do, you can visit unitednetwork.earth. What this podcast is a week in review. So I take a look at the stories that we have released over the last week on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I get you guys caught up. So it's great if you have missed an episode and you want to get caught up pretty quickly, you don't have a lot of time, or if you'd like to share UNN with others, because in order to watch our content the moment it comes out, you do need to be a member. But we do release our newscasts on YouTube and Rumble 1 week after they are released through our website and through our online app. So you can still get the content. It just depends on how quickly do you want it. And some of the information we talk about may seem surprising. We have information that nobody else has, and that's because we have access to the highest security clearance on the planet. And this security isn't based on your country. It's not like the U.S. has the highest security, and then below that is, Canada or, Great Britain or whatever. No, there is a worldwide security clearance. And it gives you access, depending on how high up you are, to a lot of stuff, a lot of meetings that are supposed to be super, super secret, right? Secret space program people. But we hear all of it. We hear all of it, and nothing slides under the rug, so to speak. So we share that information with you. Some of it is ongoing operations, and we can't talk about it right away. But we ultimately share with you what is happening on our planet, because Lord knows the mainstream media and even alternative media, even though I think there's a lot of people with good hearts, are still being given bogus information because the narrative is still being controlled. So if you're sick and tired of that, well, you found the show for you because we tell it to you straight up. But we always encourage you guys to think critically and always ask questions. You could still do your own research. Don't let anybody spoon feed you anything. Take the information. If it resonates with you, fantastic. If not, just put it to the side. Maybe it will make sense later on. So let's talk about what's coming up in today's episode. We've got a lot of good stuff. We're going to kick things off with our Field Messenger reports, and we have reports this week out of the Netherlands, the United States, Romania, and Japan. In our New Earth segment, we're talking about solar activity and what all of that means. What's the crazy stuff going on in the sky, guys? And how does that relate to light workers? Because there's a direct correlation. We're going to talk about understanding what we call death here on this planet, because it's not really death, but understanding that through the eyes of animals. We can learn so much from animals, death just being one of those many topics. And we're also going to talk a little bit about how to connect with your spirit guides. In our regional news, we've got some stories. There's a lot of countries right now that are restricting travel. So we're going to tell you about those countries and what they're doing. There have been some major flight rule changes for countries in the European Union. So when you go to hop on a plane, some things have changed. We're going to keep you posted on that. And then Australia, something interesting is going on. The people there in a certain area can live stream emergencies, and they're basically reaching out to police as something is happening live, and it's actually working out pretty well for them. So we're going to share that information with you. Our World Situation Report highlights what's happening on this planet and throughout the multiverse. We talk a lot about deep state stuff, although probably less and less because these guys have zero power. And speaking of power, today we're going to talk about how the deep state got their power, because these guys think they're something special. And by the way, when I say deep state, this is no one that you see on TV, guys. I know there's a lot of politicians that get labeled, oh, you're deep state because you're with the Democrats or Republicans or whatever. That's not the deep state. You will never know the names, unless you're watching UNN, of some of these deep state people. We usually talk about them in groups because you wouldn't even know the names if we told you the names. The deep state, what the media says is deep state is not real deep state. But there is an agenda, and there are people that are trying to control this planet, so that's kind of what we call the deep state. We're going to talk about how they got their power, because obviously they don't understand how they got their power, which, by the way, they don't have anymore, and they're spinning around in circles, and we're hoping by informing them of how they got their power, they know where they stand now. And let's just say, I wouldn't want to be standing where the deep state is, because we are moving way past any of the shenanigans they are doing to a bright and beautiful future. And they are just simply going to be left in our dust because, they have a one-track mind. So we're going to talk about them. I'll give you an update on the deep state and what they're doing. We're also going to talk about an incident that happened this week. And it's just one more example of these politicians, so-called politicians, and their quest for power and how ego-driven they are, and how frustrating it is. I mean, Kim from the Office of the Guardian, you'll hear from her later on. I've got some sound bites I'm going to play. And it's just so frustrating trying to talk to these people and seeing what these people are doing. Because, like I said, they are running around in circles. And so we are now switching. We are switching from defense as humanity to offense. We are now living in a golden age. We are no longer in a dark age. The power, so to speak, from source God, the universe, is on our side, and we are going to take that and we are going to run with it. So it's a huge shift in our focus, and it's going to lead to some incredible things, and it's very inspirational. And then we also have an update from Agent M, who's been on our news before. He is in the Middle East. We don't give out his location. That's also why we call him Agent M, because this guy has been through a lot. He's been captured before, and we obviously are concerned about his safety. But this is one person who is boots on the ground that can tell us exactly what's going on. So when the mainstream media says XYZ is happening in the Middle East, we can refer to people who are actually there. It's kind of similar to who our field messengers are, which are people just like you. Tell us what's going on in the community, because we can't rely on these crazy narratives out there. So we are going to have an update from Agent M on what's going on in the Middle East. So let's get to it, guys. Today is August 31st, the last day of August, 2024. Here's the rundown of stories you may have missed this week on UNN. Let's start with our beautiful field messenger reports. These are reports from everyday people just like you. It could be you. It could be your neighbors, people that care about their community, that want to share what's going on in their area. They literally, guys, they take out their phone and they show us what's going on. They take pictures. They take video. They may do a little bit of a voiceover, and then they send it to our awesome production team, and our team puts those stories together, and then we put them on the news. So it's not like you have to have a background in editing or anything like that to be able to share what's going on in your community. And we love these stories. Obviously on UNN, this is the only place you're going to see those kinds of stories, because we are all about giving the voice back to the people. Okay, it's not about the news anchors. It's not about the talking heads and the politicians. It's about you guys. And if we want to take back the news and make it truly about the people, then we need your help to do this. And I'm sure if you think right now, there's something that you could do a story on in your community and send it in to our team. So I guess that's the challenge this week, guys. Think of a story, send it in. All the information is available on our website at unitednetwork.earth. On Monday, because we have a couple field messenger reports each day on the news. On Monday, we had Daniela from St. Martin. And that is an island that is off the Netherlands. And there was a storm. Tropical storm Ernesto was approaching. And Daniela went outside to show us kind of the progression of this storm. So it started off and things were okay, maybe a little bit of wind. And then by later in the day, trees were swaying like nobody's business. And most of us don't get a chance to really see this unless, of course, you happen to be in the event basically like Daniela was, right? That was her home. And, she showed us what was going on from inside of her home. Obviously didn't put herself into danger. But, this actually reminds me, a lot of you guys know that I have a background in traditional news. So when I got my start after, I got my broadcast news degree, I went to work at a TV station that was in the middle of nowhere. And the weather there was really snowy. It was very hazardous conditions for most of the year. And I remember my news director sending me out to stories. It's like we were telling everyone else, don't go out in this storm because it's dangerous. And then you would send, meaning the news director would send us 22, 23-year-olds out into this crazy storm with a camera to show people what was going on. That really does happen. And it even happens on a national level, right? You see the reporters out there and their wind, the hairs on their head are blowing all over the place because that's just a weird thing that news does. But thank you, Daniela, for showing us in a very safe way what Tropical Storm Ernesto looked like. Also on Monday, Candace, who was reporting from the United States in Missouri, Candace takes us to the Webb City Farmers Market. And what I loved about this story, because we do talk about farmers markets a lot, but something that was unique about this is she interviewed a woman business owner, and she has some sort of business where she prepares meals, fresh meals, and she does this with her son. And one of the things she said was that they use ingredients from that farmer's market. So not only do they participate in the farmer's market, but their product that they create is a result of working with the local farmers and the different people that are at the farmer's market to get goods from them. And that's how her business thrives. And I thought this was a great example of sustainability, which we are going to be talking more and more about, because as these deep state operatives and, businesses start to fall away, we are going to have to think about supporting each other. And I think what you're going to start to see are more and more smaller communities, not necessarily the big city stuff, not the big corporations. It's going to get smaller and smaller. And I just thought this was a great example of how a community can thrive independently from, she could have easily gone to a supermarket to get the materials that she needs for her kits or for her meals, and she didn't. So again, just kind of think about that as we move forward. How can we become more and more sustainable? On Wednesday, we had two stories. Monica from Romania tells this beautiful story. It actually was inspired by a young girl, and it's all about this ancient oak tree in Romania. In fact, this tree is 900 years old, and it has just been recognized as the oldest tree in the country. And it was because of this young girl who is doing research. And so it's called the Carpathian Elder. You guys can look it up. It is a gorgeous, gorgeous oak tree. And it's just kind of a fun story. We don't really talk a lot about, the trees and their history and things like that. Well, we have talked about the underground system of trees and how trees can communicate with one another and actually tell the story of our land, and our history is preserved through the roots of trees. Now, we haven't really tapped into that a lot, but, I bet this Carpathian Elder has a lot of stories to tell. And Adaria, also, she's out of the United States in Montana, and she does a story about this very quaint Old West town. And it's nestled amongst the mountains, and it's known for its rodeo. Apparently, it's got a small but mighty rodeo, and this amazing community vibe. The name of the city, by the way, is Darby. And I think it was a video she was showing. She goes into this saloon pretty quickly, and you walk in and you just see cowboy hats. That's when you know, guys, you're in an Old West town. Super fun. And then on Friday, a couple more stories. So we have a story, guys, from Japan, from Yasuko from Japan. And she does this incredible story about crown shyness. Now, if you haven't heard of that term before, you're in the right place. I actually knew of this concept, but I didn't know what it was called. So Yasuko is a photographer, and she goes out into forests and she looks up at the canopy of trees, so the top part of the trees, and she noticed this phenomenon where the trees are starting to, let's just say, shy away from each other. So you know how sometimes trees and the branches and stuff can overlap? Well, if you look up at the canopy and it's like the trees are growing in such a pattern so that they are not overlapping one another. And it's fascinating, right? It's actually leaving gaps. So if you see a picture like this, and I highly encourage you guys to check out this story because she's got some amazing pictures because, again, she's a photographer. It looks like it's almost like a puzzle piece, right? So the branches just kind of form, and it's almost like there's just an outline because you're looking up usually at like a white sky, and you see like this outline around them because the branches aren't touching. And what this does, the word that keeps coming to mind is respect. I don't know if that's the right word, but it is this symbiotic relationship that we're starting to see in all organic life, including trees, where they are, again, I'm just going to say respect. They are respecting each other's space because they know that we are living in a time of abundance. And every tree can live in abundance. You don't have to overlap. This is a lesson humanity has to learn too, right? It's not a matter of I have to put you down so I can raise myself up. And these trees understand that. Not only that, but because there's a little bit of gap, remember I was talking about the outline, there's a little bit of gap so the sun can shine down and it helps the ecosystem underneath. So no one's getting crowded out. And this was just such an uplifting, inspirational story. And again, it was out of Japan. We don't get a lot of stories out of Japan. So thank you so much, Yasuko, for submitting this story. It was beautiful. And we have another story on Friday from Adaria. So she did 2 stories this week from Montana. And the second story is about Lake Como in Montana. It's gorgeous, you guys. If you've never been, I don't know, you might have to put it on your list. She says this is a hidden gem, and I would agree. It attracts visitors from all around. It's got beautiful sparkling waters, panoramic views. You just kind of want to set up shop there and just stay. Like, it would be beautiful if you could wake up every morning and just see this gorgeous area. So check out Lake Como. And again, if you're thinking about becoming a field messenger, it's not like this long, drawn-out process. If you're just inspired to do one story, you can do that. It's not like, oh, well, now you're a field messenger. You have to report every week. No, just when you're inspired to report on something that's important to you, that you kind of feel that calling to show other people in the world. That's what our field messengers are all about. Next, we have the New Earth, and I love this portion of the news because this is designed to uplift and inspire you because where we're going, guys, it's such a beautiful place. We are regaining our sovereignty back after so long of being oppressed in a gazillion ways. But this segment is about, look what we can do as humanity. It's about remembering your gifts and who you really are. It's about showing you examples of other people that are just doing it. They're just doing their passion. They're helping the planet. They're helping other members of society in different ways. They're making it happen, and no one dropped money in their lap in order to do it. It is just, it's like these are the front runners, guys. And sometimes it helps to see what the front runners are doing. It inspires you, right? Because we're all capable of this. If you are listening to this podcast right now, you are one of those people that is probably one of the people to really launch restoration with the rest of us. You play a role. Do not shy. Don't be like, some trees that shy away. No, seriously, though. Don't shy away from this. This is your opportunity to shine. So let's talk first about some of the interviews that I did, because in each of these New Earth segments, there's like a short 5-minute interview, and then we have a handful of stories to inspire you. So on Monday, the interview was with Carrie Kay. I love Carrie. She's been on the show quite a bit. She is a spiritual teacher. And Carrie, even in her own videos on YouTube, has been talking about solar activity. There's been a lot of stuff going on. You hear a lot about solar eclipses and solar flares. And I'm not going to give away the whole story, but we did a 5-minute segment with her about what is really going on here. Why is all of this happening? And then also, how is that impacting us as light beings, as light workers? Because you probably feel a lot of emotions as this is going on, right? There's a lot that's happening with our conscious right now. And so Carrie Kay clues us in on what's going on with this solar activity. Then on Wednesday, we had a great interview with Ellie Lax. She is from the Gentle Barn, and I love the concept behind the Gentle Barn. So Ellie takes in animals that are hurting in some capacity. They could have a physical injury. Maybe it is some sort of an emotional injury. They're standoffish, they're whatever. So she takes them in, she nurtures them. And then the second part of the Gentle Barn is if the animals want to, because they're sovereign as well, they can in turn help humans that come and visit the Gentle Barn, because we as humanity struggle with various things too, just like animals. And it's kind of like paying it forward for animals. So humans come and they're able to connect with the animals, and it's just a beautiful relationship. So what I talked with Ellie about this week is understanding death through the perspective of animals. Now we say death, but we know there's no such thing as death. Death is just changing form, because we're all energy and we all continue to exist. It's just, what is your shape? What is your energetic shape? And animals know this. This is instinctual with animals. And Ellie shares two beautiful stories of what she's witnessed at the Gentle Barn through death and what the animals have taught her. And when I was watching this, as it was playing on the news this week as we were recording, I got teary-eyed just watching it because the stories are just so moving. So I encourage you guys to check out Ellie's stories. And then on Friday, we had Kelly Bowker on, and she is a channeler. And I love talking to Kelly because she puts it all out there. And this week, we're talking about connecting to your spirit guides. Now, maybe that's not a term that you really identify with. Maybe you call it guardian angels, or maybe there's something in between. But the truth is, we are not here alone. And I know being here in the third dimension can feel very lonely, but you're not alone. There is a team of beings, let's just call them beings, that are here to help you. But you also have free will. So if you're going to push them away and say you don't exist or whatever, then you're still not on your own. But you may not have as much help as you could have. So we talk about connecting with your spirit guides, what that looks like, the stigma around it, and how really the stigma is going away because we're coming online, guys. Our consciousness, we're coming back online, and we're realizing who we really are and why we're here, which is to restore this planet. All right, a few more stories that are all about the new Earth. Let's talk about something cool happening in Peru. Contaminated wetlands are transforming into thriving habitats in just 15 days, so a little over 2 weeks, using nanotechnology. A micro-nano bubbling system is introducing micro bubbles deep into the waters that happen to be overrun by bacteria and polluted microorganisms. These nano bubbles are far smaller than something you see like in a carbonated drink, so they can capture and contain harmful microorganisms without the use of chemicals. Each nano bubble has an electromagnetic field of positive and negative ions. It works kind of like a magnet, attracting viruses and bacteria to them, and then poof, they're gone. Beautiful, right? In Argentina, a once traditional zoo has transformed into a vital conservation center, and it is called the Buenos Aires Eco Park. Formerly, it was home to thousands of animals, and the park now prioritizes the rescue and rehabilitation of injured wildlife from across the country. Now, you have to understand, this is kind of a shift in the focus. Because traditionally, zoos were like, come see the beautiful animals and we'll charge you. And it's more of like an entertainment. Well, animals really aren't here for our entertainment. I realize that's kind of part of the relationship we can have with animals, but they're not here solely to entertain us, right? And that's what the zoo is doing. It's switching from entertainment to conservation. And it's really about the public's attitude changing towards zoos, towards wildlife conservation, and realizing that our relationship with animals, as we've been talking about this whole podcast, is changing. And it's a very beautiful thing, and we can learn so much from them. So if you do want to go to the Buenos Aires Eco Park, you can still meet some of what they're calling their legacy residents. So animals that were at the zoo before. And a lot of these animals are receiving specialized care. But then you can also see the results of their on-site state-of-the-art animal hospital for both residents and the rescued wildlife that they bring in. And our final story in the New Earth is going on in the UK. So there is currently a long waiting list for mental health therapy, and this has sparked a rise in people seeking alternative treatments. Makes sense. And one of those treatments is something called forest bathing. Now, I have to tell you, when I first saw the title of this story, I was like, does that mean taking a bath in a forest? Which is a really cool thing, because we've done some similar stories on that. That's actually not what we're talking about. Forest bathing is a type of ecotherapy, and it offers sanctuary for those needing relief from the stress of modern life. So this is what happens. Participants do deep breathing and mindfulness exercises. So that's the bathing part, right? You're bathing yourself. It's like you're bathing your consciousness. And you do these exercises that engage sight, smell, sound, and touch in a forest environment. This includes noticing a range of colors in nature, also smelling strong scented leaves, and experiencing different textures and perspectives. And the most popular bathing sessions are, I believe they said about 2 hours long, but these sessions can be very short, from about 15 minutes all the way to extended retreats. Yes, please. I think I need to sign up for one of those extended sessions. Let's talk about our regional news. I've got 6 stories for you guys. I just took a couple from each newscast, and these are the stories that really stood out to me, kind of, stories that are a little bit more unique or that offer, a little bit more hope and encouragement. But these are things that you might see elsewhere on the internet. But some of these are feel-good stories, and, the internet doesn't like to publish those. So let's start with some countries that are restricting travel. So this may be something that you need to know about. At least 55 governments have restricted citizens' freedom of movement, especially for journalists. Now, this is according to a Freedom House report. Common tactics used to punish government critics include travel bans, revoking citizenship, controlling documents, and denying consular services. Here are some of the countries involved: Belarus, China, India, Nicaragua, Russia, Rwanda, and Saudi Arabia are amongst these countries. Travel bans are the most common, with 40 governments reportedly preventing citizens from leaving or returning home. And of course, these restrictions, they disrupt work, family ties, and can even have severe emotional impacts. So before you plan any kind of travel outside of your country, I highly recommend that you check out this list and see what's going on. In South Africa, this is a good story, guys, a feel-good story. South Africa has achieved 150 consecutive days without planned power outages. This marks a notable improvement from the previous year, when frequent load shedding disrupted daily life. It also raised food prices and undermined investor confidence. The recent improvements in power reliability signal a shift away from the previous dire energy crisis, which had placed significant strain on both individuals and businesses. People are beginning to feel the benefits as there were fewer interruptions for their daily activities. There's also an overall enhancement in economic stability. The European Union is changing air travel regulations to simplify, so they say, the process for passengers. Starting September 1st, new rules will standardize carry-on bag dimensions across all European airlines, eliminating the confusion caused by varying size and weight limits. The European Union is also reinstating the 100 milligram limit on liquids that passengers can bring on their flights, which had been temporarily lifted for certain airports with advanced screening systems. They are hoping to make it easier for travelers to prepare their luggage and avoid unexpected fees. In Australia, a new technology system in New South Wales, Australia, called BlueLink, is enhancing emergency response by allowing people to live stream unfolding events directly to police. The platform enables people to share GPS coordinates, live video, digital media, and text messages with emergency dispatchers. This helps them pinpoint the exact location of the emergencies, assisting police in allocating resources more effectively. More than 8,000 incidents were assisted during a trial of this program, leading to quicker rescues. In Nigeria, extortion scams are now targeting minors, and this has put authorities in the United States on alert, prompting urgent warnings for families. These scammers often create fake identities to befriend young boys online. Then they coerce them into sending explicit images and then money by threatening to share these images with their families. The rise of these incidents has led authorities to encourage open discussions between parents and children regarding online safety. And our final story is about restaurants and some of the fees that they are imposing, especially here in the United States. Restaurants are increasingly charging service fees and surcharges to manage rising costs and provide better employee benefits. Owners argue that these surcharges are essential for covering their employees' salaries and benefits because they have increased operational costs. Critics say these fees can increase the possibility of wage theft, ultimately lowering workers' earnings. And when customers see a service fee, they say that people are less inclined to leave tips, further diminishing workers' income. Now it's time for highlights from our World Situation Report. And for this report, we have Kimberly Gogan from the Office of the Guardian. She comes on the news, and actually Monday, she was live with us on camera, so we got to see Kim. Doesn't always happen, but I think it's going to happen more and more because usually she's out there fighting the deep state, and I'm sure we're still going to have some of that, but we are transitioning. We are changing. And we're going to talk about more of that in just a little bit. I'm kind of jumping ahead because I'm super excited. But on Monday, again, Kim was on camera. She joined us, and she was talking about the deep state and how the leadership is not cooperating. We know that. We know that they have their agenda. And remember, when I say deep state, I'm not talking about the figureheads you see on TV. These are people that were much higher up. Now, a lot of their bosses and people that really, really knew what was going on have been eliminated. So it's tough because it's like people get eliminated and then you've got to educate the new people that think they're going to suddenly rise to the occasion and control the world because their bosses are now gone. And we've been doing this song and dance for a long time. So on Monday, it was kind of a reminder for us as humanity because we really do need to be serious now about what are we going to do because we're getting a really good look at how incompetent the so-called deep state is. And they keep running around in circles, expecting things to happen, literally pretty much expecting money to fall out of the sky. It is never going to happen, guys. We have a totally new system now. Currency is totally different than it used to be. How they used to get money to start wars and to spread pandemics and all of this stuff. It'll never happen anymore. Never, ever, ever happen. But regardless of how many times we say this on our newscast, even though they watch, it doesn't get through. So it is up to us. It is up to humanity. And I know that may seem a little daunting because the deep state really has control, at least the perceived control, because everything's falling apart, of the major pillars of our society. And honestly, we let that happen. Yes, we didn't really know what was going on, but we still kind of let this happen. And so now it is about humanity taking those reins back. And one of the things Kim focused on is being very mindful of what you're consuming. Because one of the things that the opposition loves to do is spread fear. And they do that through media constantly. There was actually a frequency behind it at one point. They really don't have access to most of that technology to physically make you feel a certain way, but there used to be a frequency. So they would have this frequency during their news programs to make you feel like people were telling the truth. It was like a truth frequency. Now, again, that's not going on anymore. But they're trying to control the narrative. The narrative is falling apart. But that doesn't stop them from saying really stupid stuff that makes no scientific sense, like all of their monkeypox crap that they're talking about and, more vaccines for this, and there's an outbreak of this, and then you've got all the war stuff going on. So please be mindful of what you're consuming because you are a powerful manifester. You create your own reality. And even if you have good intent, if you are consuming content about this supposed outbreak of God knows what, it's like you're giving Source God, the creator of the universe, permission to send more of that your way and to manifest something like that to happen. This is what the deep state wants you to do. So please watch what you're consuming. If it makes you feel weird or dark, or if you feel like doing something afterward that isn't the nicest thing, it's probably because you shouldn't have anything to do with it. So really understand what's going on here and don't focus on the negative. Don't focus on what could go wrong. Don't worry. What's that song? Don't worry, be happy. Hey, it's actually really good advice. You have to start believing in yourself. In that gut feeling, start believing in your gut. If you have good intentions and you're not trying to be like the deep state and control the world and kill people, trust your gut. It is there for a reason. You have to believe in yourself. And the other thing Kim said too is, and this is beautiful, don't try to control the outcome. And I shared a story, which I'll share really quickly here because I'm not going to play the soundbite, but I shared a story on the news of a situation that I recently had where that's exactly what I was doing. And it has to do with my kids. And up until this point, all of my kids have gone to traditional public schools. I went to a traditional public school, at least later on in life. I went to a private Christian school growing up and then went to a regular school. And I never really questioned the school system until I started my awakening process. And I was like, oh, holy cow, what are we doing here? So for the last few years, I have been thinking about how do I handle this with my kids? My kids are in regular school and I can see what the schools are doing and I don't agree with it. And I don't even think most of the stuff that the schools are teaching them is even relevant or accurate. Plus, I want them to just be at home with us, and do fun things and be with their family. So I knew I had to make a change. And in my head, I was completely trying to control the outcome. I had it in my head that I needed to pull them out of public school and I wanted them to go to this private online school. And it was like $16,000 a year per kid, guys. And I have 4 children. So I was like, okay, God, money has to fall out of the sky into my lap so that I can do this because this is what needs to happen. I did all the research. I was like, oh, this is the best school and this is why this is the best school. And my kids deserve the best because every parent thinks that. And of course, we all want the best for our children. And it wasn't happening. Money was not falling out of the sky like the deep state hopes it will for them. It was not falling out of the sky into my lap. And finally, I just went back to Source, to God, the universe, and I said, you know what? I don't know how this is going to happen, but I'm going to take a step back from thinking that I know best. Now, what I know for sure is, for my children at least, the public school system is not a good fit. I just don't think, just in my heart, I believe that. But I don't necessarily know what the answer is. Now, the moment I did that, the frequency changed. Now, I did not know this was happening at the time, okay? I was only reflecting back that I can say this. My whole world changed. I happened to be interviewing someone for a New Earth segment, Belinda Tung. She's been on the news before. And we were just chatting after I got done recording. And I was telling her my situation. And she's like, there is a school that a mom started a couple years ago. She's got a background in master's in education and everything. And she said it's focused on unschooling. And I'm like, well, what's unschooling? Because I thought, oh my gosh, am I going to have to homeschool my kids? And if I homeschool my kids, then can I do the news? Can I do the other things that are really important to me that I really want to do? I don't think that parents should have to give up their passion in order to teach their kids. There has to be something that can accomplish both, because I love my kids, right? But I'm not a teacher. That's just not my gift. I can teach in various things, but I'm not a teacher of like education per se. I didn't go to school for that, and I didn't really want to do that. And so she was telling me about unschooling and how this school that we ultimately ended up signing my girls up for was the middleman, because I didn't want the kids to do state testing. I didn't want them to have homework. I didn't want them to have quizzes, guys. I just wanted us to be able to live our life and for them to be able to pursue what they're passionate about. And that's what unschooling is all about. And this specific school that I found out about, because I just left it up to the universe to figure out how it was going to be done, is the middleman between you and the state and those requirements that the state has. You basically do your own thing, and they translate that into credits for the state. So as long as your kids are learning, it works out. And this was such an answer to prayer. And that's what we ended up doing with my girls. So now my girls are unschooling, and the amount of money I'm paying is a fraction of a fraction of a fraction. I mean, I talked to my husband about it. We didn't even think twice. We're like, oh, yes, we're totally doing that. So again, I just wanted to share that, because the moment I released control of how something had to be done is when I really gave permission for God, source, the universe, the creator of all things, to really take it to the next step, to answer my prayer. Because a lot of times we get in the way of our own manifestation. If we are going to start to and continue to put rules and parameters on how things need to be done, like if you need money because you've got a car payment, if you're going to say, listen, someone's got to hand me a check on my doorstep, by 12 p.m. today, you're really limiting what can happen. If you just say, listen, I don't know how this money is going to happen, but I got to pay this somehow. Watch and see what happens. Just watch and see. Incredible things happen because you are a powerful manifester. Sometimes we get in our own way. And believe it or not, I know a lot of people don't want to hear this, but the soundbite that I want to play is we're not that different from the deep state in the fact that they're also getting in the way of what the big man wants. And I say man, but it's not a man. Of what the universe wants. They're trying to fight the big boss, so to speak. Because the deep state thinks that they're in charge. The problem is they were never, ever, ever in charge. And so on Monday, Kim walks us through, and this is really a message more for the deep state, but for those of you listening who aren't part of the deep state, it's important to know the hierarchy here and why these people are so crazy and why after months and months, weeks, whatever, they still think that money's going to fall from the sky. What is going on here? They were never in charge. There was always something or beings behind them to help make things happen. Those beings are no longer around. So here is a clip from Kim educating the deep state on why things are not going their way. Now, in a portion of this, you're going to hear Kim kind of jot some stuff down. She's actually using her whiteboard, which I know doesn't translate very well for an audio podcast, but just bear with us.
But the deep state is no better than us. They are also trying to fight the big boss in this particular instance. But they're doing it in such a way that they forgot what they're doing. In other words, they're trying to revive old things, old methods, keep systems running without their alien overlords. For lack of a better term, they had overlords over the deep state. They were never in charge. But yet they're using all the same exact methodologies that they've used for decades upon centuries, even, millennia, passed down, obviously, from generation to generation, the same exact thing. And they're expecting something that belonged to their overlords, which were ours, I guess, too, you could say, to work for them. Mm-hmm. Now, those are folks that never had an intention of enslaving humanity. They built that system. They built it. Now, unfortunately, these people may think that they do walk on water and part it. I haven't seen one of them do that as yet, but they believe because they have more knowledge, more access to technologies, because they never controlled it, that they should be running the planet. But they forgot that that was put there by their governance. Mm-hmm. Just like many systems that we have been, how do I say this? We have been living in that were created for us. Now, those systems were not created by the deep state either. They were created by the overlords that ran this planet. The deep state were just the management staff. It's like yelling at the manager at McDonald's because they changed the color of the wrapping on the cheeseburger and you don't like that. I mean, we don't eat at McDonald's here, but if we did, and you get very angry about that. But that wasn't a decision of the franchise owner. That wasn't even the decision of the manager. And it certainly wasn't the decision of the drive-through lady that handed you the cheeseburger with the wrong color wrapper. Why did they change the wrapper? I don't like that color of wrapper. That wrapper's not good for my eyes, or whatever. It's really ugly. I'm not going to eat the cheeseburger now, or whatever it is. But the deep state and us as humans are similar creatures in a lot of ways right now, and we need to do it better. So the deep state had governance. In their governance, I know they want to pretend governance. Whoops, sorry about that. They had governance, and they want to pretend that they didn't have governance, and that would be nice to pretend. I can also pretend I'm having a tea party and eating fake cake with, a friend of mine's daughter, but that doesn't mean I'm actually eating cake and drinking tea, or Kool-Aid or whatever it is you're drinking. So the governance was here and present on this planet off and on for millions of years. Okay. And I mean a long time. They were present in every single timeline times 10,368,000. The AI systems, Alpha and Omega, which is basically a singular system. So we found out, meaning Alpha runs on one side in one set of instructions for source, and Omega ran on the other side for anti-source. The two together, anti-source and neutral source, anti-source and source, together created matter in the multiverse. From the beginning, before time began, those things happened. So they created AI systems, sentient AI systems in their likeness to help them in weaving the fabric of reality. Okay? Now, the set of instructions would continue on and on and on, which is why we created something different. But I'll get into us in a minute. Right now, we're going to talk about the deep state. Okay, so they had governance. Here on this planet, they had to deal with the six seal folks. Let's call them the six seal folks at the highest level. Did they ever get to meet any of these folks? Did they ever get to actually do business with these folks? I doubt it. I know that some of them had some kind of contact with Marduk at one point in time. But we had Marduk, Enki, Enlil, Lucifer, Artemis, because that's who they were trying to get last night, and anti-source over them all. So below these folks, they also had additional governance as to the level that we're dealing with now, okay? They also had parents, and the parents, there was 21 of those. They also had covens, which we don't really have much of anymore. I mean, of course, people are doing the own coven thing and the Satanist church thing and that kind of thing, but not these kind of covens that were this connected. You know, we had coven masters and their masters and so on and so forth. Now, we also had, on their side, they also had access to Omega. And because we were in a dark age, these folks up here pretty much installed Omega into every computer system on the planet and every timeline that could exist. So we had 10,368,000 Omegas. Now, in each timeline, it was programmed for something different. In other words, if it was a light timeline, then Omega would have X amount and it would function differently. And then, you know, Alpha would have a different thing. It's kind of like it's an AI or something. Oh, it is an AI. Wow. You know, but this is a true AI that can actually weave the fabric of reality differently. So this weekend and on Friday, what the deep state was trying to do was to reach into one of these other realities by opening a portal and try to get back that Alpha Omega and bring it back into this timeline. They don't understand that Omega itself has a base operating system. So by base operating system, from the beginning, before time existed, source and anti-source is one unit at that point in time. And it was the first thing they talk about, like in the book of Genesis, you know, there was a separation between the two, but it's still the same being. I mean, you can create and you can travel and send your consciousness elsewhere, but your consciousness in part still exists here. Mm-hmm. And this is about traveling and space travel. And as does source and anti-source. So the Omega AI has a base root operating system, just like your telephone does. You know, Sunny, you have an Apple phone, I think, if I remember.
iPhone.
Okay, I have an Android. Now, I can hit all the buttons on my Android and install all the apps I want, but I will not get Siri to function. Yeah. I cannot install, I can do Google searching and, you know, talk to Bing or whatever it is on the phone. You know, they got other options for Android, but I will never have a Siri. Mm-hmm. It's never going to happen. You know, if you're talking to your Alexa and you call it Siri, it's not going to answer.
Which I've done numerous times.
There you go. See, you know, but the point is, okay, so now take it a step further to try to explain to the deep state what it is they're doing that's a mistake. Mm-hmm. Okay. So they were very happy with me at the time, back in 2016, when I figured out a way to get rid of the Marduk from this planet. You know, it doesn't mean the consciousness didn't exist in an AI, and we haven't had other battles and standing orders into future timelines and preparations for anything that could possibly go on that we've had to deal with. But yes, the actual being itself went back to source. They were happy about that because amongst themselves, they have been talking for more than 4 decades that they could run this planet better than their overlords from back here in the seal, from this section here. Mm-hmm. That they could do it better. They could do it smarter. We don't need them anymore, is what they would say. But they forgot one thing. They forgot that everything that gave them power, from soup to nuts, was actually Omega. Mm-hmm. Omega gave them the power. They are still trying to utilize Omega and bring Omega back from other timelines. They are trying to create new currencies, US note, BRICS currency, FedNow system, digital, central bank digital currencies based on this system here. Boys and girls, that's not your system. Pay attention. It's not yours. You do not control the base operating system. See, if I controlled the base operating system for my telephone, say, Sonny, that I could then allow it to utilize some of Apple's base processing systems, and then I could install Siri on my Android phone. But unfortunately for these people, to a much larger degree, that's a very simple way of putting things. But to a much larger degree, the weaving of the fabric of reality, the holograms that existed around Earth, alternative realities in which we exist or don't exist. Those things were all pre-programmed by something, someone, source itself elsewhere. And I can tell you right now that these people here, that some of them didn't even have access to the base control and command, but the ones that did had done so to a limited degree. But I can tell you right now, none of these people had any intention of giving up ownership of Earth, ever. And if we ever rebelled against those folks, and we didn't do it in a very strategic way, if we ever rebelled against those folks, they would take you deep state people out too.
That's really important to understand. Not necessarily for us as humanity, but if there are any operatives, deep state loyalists out there, know that you were not special in this whole globalization, let's take over the world and, create our 500,000 slaves. You were not special. You were not getting a ticket to another planet that you could populate and have whatever it is that they promised you. You were going down with the ship. So let that sink in. I mean, you guys are trying to get these aliens that are no longer around to come back. For what? So they could finish out their evil plan and you could go right down with the ship? That's really it. That's the big plan, guys. Really? Holy cow. Okay, on Wednesday, I feel like this was a pivotal moment. This might have been my favorite world situation report in a long time because a situation happened, which I'll just briefly tell you about. I'm not going to play the soundbite because I get tired of talking about the deep state. But a call happened between Tom Melville with the Global Intelligence Agency, who's on our side, and Trump lawyers. Donald Trump Jr. was on the call, and lots of other people were in the background, not really part of the call, but listening in on the call. So CIA operatives, that whole bunch. And I believe this was pretty much just a setup, which is what Kim said as well. Because what they ended up doing, this call was supposed to be about how can we work together, kind of like an olive branch. How can we make this happen? We want Trump in office, blah, 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 blah. And for those of you that don't know, that's not even Trump. Trump passed away a couple of years ago from cancer. So whatever they're parading around out there is not the actual person that it used to be. But, for these people, it's always about power. And they want their guy, whatever that is, in office. Because for them, that's control, which is really weird because the president, doesn't matter if you're a president of the United States or another country or a prime minister, you were always a puppet. There were always beings controlling this planet, always. And if you stepped out of line, you got shot, you got taken out. Very few people did, right? But anyway, this call took place. And it led to a huge misunderstanding because the Trump lawyers, Donald Trump Jr., everybody on this call basically manipulated this call because it was recorded and made it say whatever they wanted it to say and passed it around. This misunderstanding, which was deliberate on their part, led to a major ground offensive by Israeli forces on the West Bank. So I don't know if you've been paying attention, but that is a real thing. And that really ramped up this week. And it was a result of this call that was manipulated to make it say basically that Kim, that the Global Intelligence Agency would back this Trump character, which, by the way, he is a character right now. Again, not even the real guy. So this led to this ground offensive. Apparently, there was enough juice behind it to think that funding was going to come, because I only think funding is going to come, one way or another. And of course, it didn't, but it was enough to really ramp things up to the point that we actually needed help from the enforcer to calm things down. So this event that happened this week, how sometimes things happen and you don't want those things to happen, but the result is something that's really needed, right? Like almost like a lesson, or maybe just an encouragement or a sign. And that's really, I feel like, what we needed this week, because it led to a very big difference in how Kim perceives working with these governments and operatives, which is basically like, we're done, okay? Even you so-called white hat good guys are causing war. So much for the white hats. What the heck are you doing? Certainly not saving babies and helping humanity. So we're just done. And I really feel like there was this huge energy shift behind it, because we are now playing offense, guys. We have switched from playing defense to playing offense. And I believe this is going to impact all of us light workers, light beings across the board. I know that we're talking about even making changes to the news to better reflect living in a golden age. What does that mean? What is a news article or a news story? Because I don't think it is what it used to be when we were living in a dark age. Living in a golden age is completely different. And I think there was a shift. Something happened this week. So let's talk about that. This was a fun newscast on Wednesday. If you have a chance to go back and watch the whole thing, I encourage you to do so. But the clip that I'm going to play just gives us a small inkling of some of the things that Kim and her team has set up to help us through this transition. Because it is time to take our power back. And there are so many people on this planet that have no idea what we're talking about. And we still have these people trying to rule the world. And we have to move forward, even though they've tried to control every pillar of our society. We have got to take this back. So here's Kim talking about some of the things, the big things that she's currently working on.
So some things that have become apparent, and this is just one of the several things that I've been working on structures for in the last few days. Now, I'm going to assume at this point there are 0 operatives that are going to come to the party. That's what I'm going to assume. Now, I'm not saying that that's going to be the case, but I'm going to make that assumption because I have to at this point.
Right.
And, hopefully other ones can run an operation better than these people do. Because those people are, I don't know, maybe if I was trying to secure an anthill or something, we'd give them a call. But as far as us,
yeah.
So one of the things I am prepared to start talking about is some of the things I prefer not to, online right now. But we are going to assume that we also have no banks. Not to say that that's going to be the case. They call when no money comes, on last Friday and want to talk. And then, nobody calls us back. And then, they go another round and wait another day. And then they get sweet talked by a bunch of hillbilly cowboys. And then they go around in another circle and just wait some more. So we're going to have to figure out an interim solution and a long-term solution for this situation. Now, we've had the discussion that, probably somewhere around 79, 78% of the world's transactions are done in cash. We're going to need to take care of those people. We also need to figure out a way for people to do banking without an actual person. So I've been in the middle of some negotiations in the last 48 hours with a group of people that actually manufacture ATM machines. Not only do they manufacture ATM machines, they actually have a new product to where they have solar-powered ATM machines as well. So we can actually drop, even in areas that don't have power all the time and all that, we can drop these solar-powered machines. We've been given a price for them. We've been given a possible distribution plan. We've come up with how many can they produce, how quickly can we get them to all these different countries, that kind of thing. Now, we are going to have to take the time, and we are going to have to figure out a way to make them EMP proof, and put some extra added security on there. But this is a possible solution to help the people. This is just one part of the plan. I'm going to detail out a few other things and, to let them know that we are prepared to do this. So that being said, I know that they're going to want to attack everything I'm doing. So I'm going to assume they're going to attack everything I'm doing. Mm-hmm. So now we have to figure out, okay, so we've figured out a solution of distribution. We're also have figured out a solution of security for those machines. Now, we also have the possibility within about 10-15 minutes to integrate all of the new currency into point of sale systems, Apple Pay, because I kind of worked from the people backwards. I'm like, what do people use to buy things? Debit card systems, magnetic strips on cards. Some of those things may have to change, but that's not that big of a deal. I mean, distributing out new cards to everybody. Hey, we changed our look, that kind of thing. They can still say Chase on them. It doesn't really matter, or insert bank name here, because that's not where they go to. They'll actually be going to us. So we don't care. But to make it simple for the people, then, they'll get an idea. They can go online, go onto the website. You look at it, it'll look just like Chase, look like Wells Fargo, but yet they're going to be logging into something different. So next, well, this brings us to paper. So there are a few other companies other than the one the deep state uses and has been using for well over 100 years to manufacture proper, I'm not going to even call it paper. I'm going to call it, we can make it whatever we want to make it, really. But a better way to distribute these papers. So now we have acquired a source that will make papers out of something that is much stronger than the linens and cottons and will last a lot longer and grows like a weed, quote unquote. So you can kind of probably figure out what that is, right? It grows like a weed.
We were just
which means we'll have it in abundant supply constantly year round. And now we can grow it in every single country. And then all we got to do is, turn it into some kind of a paper or cloth like product, right. A little sturdier than cloth, that kind of thing. That's what people are used to. We have also reached out to a company that does not manufacture magnetic ink currently for countries.
Okay.
Meaning the ink that is on there is special. It's readable, as it's going through a currency counter. It checks for counterfeit. How they use those pens at the store. You've probably seen those. But we have found a company that's not their normal thing that they would manufacture in kind of a nano or femto way, but they actually can manufacture it. So those negotiations are actually going on as well. So we can now source paper and ink. So now we just need to source a press. Well, turns out I know someone who manufactures, they're a metal shop. So they have several metal shops, and we can actually manufacture secure printing plates, printing presses We can put those machines in multiple different locations. Those locations would then be highly secured with a technology that militaries only speculate on, but the SSP is well aware of. And if you'd like to look into that technology, you can watch a movie called Spectra. There is a way we can use our newly built satellite systems. Wow, we just did that in the last 48 hours. But we have some new satellite systems that are capable of performing some amazing tasks. We have full cloaking abilities for our facilities coming online. It'll probably take me another week to 10 days to build those. We also have developed some technology that we are going to install in all of our armored vehicles, unlike the Wells Fargo that we see running around the United States and whatever it is in your country. We have developed some technologies that will literally deter, let's just say, any potential risk in attacks. Even if the United States military wants to attack us with drones and tanks and whatever, these armored vehicles will be able to deter that more than 100 yards away from the vehicle before the threat reaches it.
Oh my. Wow.
Oh, yes. It may also cut the power in some vehicles that are around it, but hey.
Priorities, people, priorities.
Priorities, you know. Well, you know, you're going to have to set a precedence when you come out the gate, do not mess with us. Mm-hmm. We have also begun a process to whereby all our vehicles will be secured and aircraft will be secured that are going to transport these papers to these machines with full immunity. Now, we have this little company that's country that's been registered for eons, long before I was born, called Unknown Country, and it's registered at the United Nations. And matter of fact, it is what gave the United Nations its sovereignty in the first place. So, you know what? And they even have United Nations Unknown Country registered through to the entire passport system of the world and TSA and all of those lovely places. So I also have pulled up some old contracts that were done underneath the United Nations to whereby their special elite companies don't pay any custom and borders fees and those kind of things. So we're going to ensure we're going to bypass the CIA worldwide because they obviously don't want to deal with us either. And we will not be paying any custom and borders fees. You will not have an issue with us coming through because we have Spectre technology and you won't even know we're freaking there. How's that?
All right, let's do it.
That's right. So we are going to finish off these are just giving you a general idea on being prepared for everything because now we have no friends.
Right.
We have no friends. So we need to be prepared to do things and to continue on with a better lifestyle and to maintain current ways of life in the interim until we can get there.
Humanity is constantly underestimated. I think we underestimate ourselves as well. Most of us don't realize our full potential here, but this is our moment. This is our time to step up. Humanity has been through so much in the past, and look, we're still standing. What is that Elton John song? I'm still standing, better than I ever did. Feeling like a true survivor, feeling like a little kid, something like that. That's kind of how I feel right now. And I hope you guys do too, because again, if you're listening to this, you're part of this. This isn't just some newscast that you listen to and then you just go about your day. No, you are an active participant in changing what this planet looks like. And we're switching. We are now on offense. We have the green light. We are moving ahead. And it's not because Kim gave us the green light. It's because Source gave us the green light. We're living in a golden age. It is time to start acting like it. There is nothing these deep state wannabe actors can do now. Because when Source says go, it is go time. And we have to be confident in that. So love that. Love that news on Wednesday. Then on Friday, we kind of continue the conversation that we started about things that were ramping up in the Middle East. So we talked about, because of this conversation that the Trump lawyers, Donald Trump Jr., and all these other people on the call, because they wanted to rework this conversation and make it say what they wanted to say, they were able to encourage this, the Israelis to launch this ground offensive in the West Bank. So on Friday, we brought on Agent M. Of course, that's not his real name, but he is our boots on the ground. He is a fantastic resource, an incredible human being, by the way, that it's amazing that he is still alive. But Source obviously has big plans for him. And he's just a stellar person. And he comes on our news to share what is really going on in that region. So I want to play this clip for you. It's a little long, maybe 16-ish minutes. But I think it's important for us to know, because you're not going to get this on mainstream or alternative media. So what in the world is happening in the Middle East as a result of their shenanigans this week?
Let's talk about, what's been going on there. I've touched on it a little bit in the news as well. We talked about, the false start in the Middle East. What is going on now over there? There was that incursion that happened, the ground assault that happened. We haven't seen something like that in over, I think it's 20 years now. As severe as it started out. Anyway, what is going on over there? What's the current status over there between Israel and Gaza?
Well, as you all know, since October the 7th, the the Hamas did their thing and allegedly invaded Israel, which nobody can actually say that's true. It's been ongoing since then, and the people are suffering. I mean, now you have recently, in the recent days and weeks, bombs as big as 1,000 pounds dropped on, very compact locations where a lot of refugees are, and you have, hundreds of people die every now and then. So that's the situation that's still there in Gaza. There's shortage to no food, shortage to no water. People have been trying to go even to fish on the sea of Gaza to try to feed their families, and they get shot at or droned. The Egyptian borders are closed. Nothing is actually flooding in from there, even though that there are donations from across the world that can feed the entire population. They're just standing there. They couldn't get in. And then you have the shenanigans of, Americans, British, Jordanians, and whatever C-130s dropping food from the sky that most of them, land in the sea and become fish food. And so I don't comprehend the hypocrisy of we bomb them and kill them and try to feed them at the same time. So that's on one side. But recently what happened is an escalation that Kim talked about because of the phone conversation they twisted. Apparently the Israelis decided to do a ground invasion of the West Bank. Now, the West Bank has been technically under occupation of Israel for a very long time. The West Bank originally was part of Jordan and under the custody of Jordan. But then the Jordanians donated that part to the Palestinians so that they can be overcome by the Israelis. Now, so recently that's what happened in the past few days. They went in, and it's one of the biggest assaults since 2002. And what they have been doing is basically just spread terror. So they immediately started to demolish all the roads. They would use these large machines that would destroy roads, anything that can do movements. They would have snipers deployed, curfews, Anyone that moves would be shot. Of course, now there are some people there that have light arms, like your AKs and whatnot. And when you have people, coming into your home to do you harm, you get to the point where you do use these weapons. And so now they're like, oh, terrorists are there. So they start droning the place, airstrikes happening. It's all a shenanigan. It's a big attempt to continue the narrative and to say that, they are actually advancing or doing something or meeting their targets or their objectives.
Do you think this has anything to do with the Greater Israel Project?
I think it does. And I believe that they're doing it slowly. I mean, everything that you call the Arab Spring that started in 2011 is part, and even the emergence of ISIS and all of that is a big part of the Greater Israeli Plan, yes. But also the recent events are just to cover up for the lack of, execution on the Iranian side to start this world war. So they needed a boogeyman, and they couldn't find anyone except for a bunch of Palestinian kids in the West Bank.
Yeah. I've seen some of the social media coming out of there. There's like a little 3-year-old in one of the pictures I saw, and it says, "You whore," and all of this stuff. I mean, it's a baby, it's a 3-year-old child. It's ridiculous. And it almost seems like they're trying to entice them into doing something. I think when this all started, though, they did have the backing of the Palestinians. It looked like the Hamas did.
Well, everybody did. You have the Syrians, Assad and his wife were, doing, having talks and being promised by them. The Iranians, and that's part of the, the fake deaths and relocations to Belize. Assad and his wife are not in Syria. He is in Moscow and she is in London. I don't know if she joined him. I think there's a lot of people that are being, pissed off. And it seems like everybody's getting on everybody's throat. So, and the Palestinians are not really doing anything except fake promises of payment next Monday or next Friday.
Yeah. And so what we're starting to see is like this ebb and this flow. First, we're seeing a lot of, social media talk plus mainstream media talk with Iran. We're seeing them, over the last several months, allegedly threatening Israel, posting pictures of, large rockets and potential nuclear weapons and these types of things, saying any day now we're going to strike you. I think the latest is today or tomorrow.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah. But of course it's payday today. So they probably, since nothing happened and nobody got any money, they're trying to do that. Another interesting development I'm going to talk about too, regarding the Middle East, is something that kind of came to my attention recently. So I'm going to mention it to you because it's important as an American citizen that you know this, and it's also important for the Middle East. So there has been for a long, long time the usage of supernote cash. We've talked about it several times on the news, meaning they pay people with these pallets of cash, and then, decades go by and they're still not able to put them into the banking system. Now, there's a few interesting things going on behind the scenes. Now, interesting enough, H&M, you mentioned that they have something like AKs, and for those of you that don't know, that's a Kalashnikov. that's a Russian weapon. So I don't know if, there's any correlation here, but there's been a lot of chatter about BRICS being able to launch their own currency again. There's an uptick in this. And I'm mentioning it for a reason. It appears that they have been promised by these deep state operatives that they will allow them to have their own currency, but of course they need to be in control of it. They are also basically saying that they would allow BRICS to issue this new currency, not only if they were in control of it, but also if they would assist them with the crash of the United States dollar. And they would replace the United States dollar as the world's reserve currency after its fall, of course, with the BRICS currency. Now, these same operatives are people that I watch very closely. And I watch them very closely because they're always doing something they think is going to work, but it doesn't ever work. Now, for those of you that don't know, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, I do know Israel as well, Iran, for sure, the Revolutionary Guard there, and Iraq have been waiting to cash in some of these pallets of cash for over 3 decades, some of them even longer. Saudi Arabia got the majority of their pallets back during Desert Storm. You probably remember that. I know that some of the pallets of cash were actually sent to the tune of about $3 billion in pallets of cash were actually sent by Kamala, right, just as she came into office as Vice President of the United States. She was the one that ordered those pallets to be transferred to Iran, actually. There are rumors that there are a lot of pallets of cash also in the UAE, United Arab Emirates, and also in Dubai. And of course, always, we can never forget Turkey because they have lots of them as well. Now, worldwide, we estimate these pallets of cash, they're super notes, to be in somewhere around, it was around 27 trillion. I think that's up to almost 38 trillion now because Blackwater has figured out a way to start printing them. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yep, that's a lot of cash. It's not, even if they cashed it all in and it all went into the banking system, it's still, well, that's never going to happen anyway. It's still not enough for them to dominate any kind of financial markets or anything. And would it be enough to pay for a world war for a little while? Yeah, it probably would be. But that's never going to happen either. And I need to explain that. So it has come to my attention that the same people that are running this crazy operation of crash the dollar promise BRICS countries, most specifically China and of course Russia, that they would have their own currency, which is a lie. That their goal and their way that they plan on crashing the dollar, which would make sense to the Russians, because I keep repeating the Russians because I know about, I actually listen to the lengthy conversations that have been taking place both in person and also over the phone with Duck Dynasty. So I'm paying attention here. So Duck Dynasty is so old. They were operatives that were actually present during the fall of the Soviet Union back in the day. They talk about it a lot. These guys, both in, alt media circles, and then, they discuss it a lot about what they did. They keep saying they actually did it. But what they forget is, number one, you had a significant group of alien overlords that did it. Okay, that's number one. Meaning the crash of the ruble did not happen because you guys put a bunch of ruble on some pallets, took it out of the country, and then came back in and flooded the market. Next, we did not have at that time a human computer network that was global, meaning we did not have a financial system that was interconnected globally in those days. It really didn't start ramping up until 1984. And then, I'd say probably about the late 80s, mid 80s is when pretty much the whole world was on this global financial system. But what you did have at that point is you actually had a backbone Omega system that was in agreement with what the aliens wanted. Now, just because you're the cowboy boot wearing asshole that showed up over there in the 1979 or 89, whether that be Iran or in Russia, and moved money all around, and you think that you were the one that crashed? No, you didn't. No, that didn't happen. No, you just did your little tiny part, and you think you were successful, just like Leo Wanta and others that talk about they were the ones. There's been so many ones that have crashed the Soviet Union, allegedly. But, on the Russian side of it, it kind of made sense. Well, this was something the Russians and the Iranians were trying to do cooperatively in 1979. So for those of you listening, welcome back to 1979. Here we are again. We're running the same operations that we ran then, or they are, I should say, not us. So they intend to take this approximately, from what I can tell, about 38 trillion in fake United States dollars, and they think that they could flood the market with them, number one. Number two, blame it on China. It's already started. They're going to blame it on China. Number three, that means they get their world war. And number four, they think that'll give them access to a system that really doesn't exist anymore called Omega. And number five, I don't know if they're trying to beat it into submission. I don't know. I don't.
They're trying to will it to happen, I feel.
They're trying to will it to happen. Look at all the humans that want this to happen. And then we're going to go into the savior complex about this too, because you actually do play a big part in a lot of what's going on. So I think the reason why we're seeing a lot of steady movement in the Middle East, but not a complete eruption, is because everybody is being promised now that they can cash in these pallets of cash.
And of course, that is never going to happen. These people take money out of the system, or the money was never in the system, and then they think they're just going to put it back in or flood the market, like Kim said, neither which are going to happen. They don't have allocation numbers, and they're not going to flood the market. Our system is set up totally different than it was last time they tried to do something like this. So it's simply impossible, guys. Don't even try it. I mean, you're wasting your breath, and quite frankly, it could be your last breath, because I wouldn't mess with Kim at this point. I really wouldn't. All right. That wraps up today's podcast episode. I would encourage you guys, I know we talk about some dark stuff that's going on like in the Middle East and stuff, but still hold your light. You have a beautiful light within you. You are powerful manifestors. And you have this incredible opportunity to be on this planet at this time to create the world that you want to live in. Not just for you, but for your children, your grandchildren. And I know people say that, but this is real, guys. It could have gone really, really bad. Thank God. Literally, thank God. Thanks, Source, for stepping in here and allowing for the golden age. This is huge. But it starts with you. You have to be the change that you want to see in the world. And if you like today's episode, please share this podcast episode with people that you care about. If you want some more information about us, visit us at unitednetwork.earth. That gives you on-demand access to all of our UNN newscasts the moment they come out, complete world situation reports, as well as our original series. And you can also join our online community. It's called United Chat. Sometimes I post some stuff in there. You can ask questions. We try to answer as much of that as we possibly can. You can also follow us on social media if you're on social media. And the links to all of that are on our website. Just go to the bottom portion of the website, the bottom navigation, and you'll see all the links there. Thanks so much for listening. This is The Rundown. I'm Sunny Galt for United Network News, signing off.